And we are live. Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. I'm Chris Garner, joined today with Tayte in the Hour to give our kind of highly anticipated review on Disney Pixar's Coco. This is a
Yes.
movie that was released in November for Mexico. It was released in December, I believe, for the rest of the United States. And it has only just been released now in the UK. Well, it got an advanced screening this weekend just gone, and it's getting officially released this weekend. So we've had to wait a long time, as is usually the case for these animated films. We're fast track on the road to the Academy Awards now. We've got the BAFTAs coming up first, and then we're into the Academy Awards. And this is probably a very, very strong contender for Best Animated Feature. In all honesty, it will probably win the Oscar at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. Tayte, how are you doing today?
I am doing very good. I am very tired, but I am doing very good. Building on that, I first of all want to say I apologize. I was wrong. And this is in reference to, if you've seen our Loving Vincent review, I said that Coco wasn't going to be a good film, that it was a copy of Book of Life, which it still kind of is, but it's less of a copy than what I thought it would be. And I just was not excited about it. I thought Loving Vincent should be given more of the spotlight. It still should. Loving Vincent is still the best animated feature of the year for the Oscars, but there is no way that Coco is ever going to lose this crown.
No.
Coco did a good enough job in itself of being one of the best Disney Pixar films in a while. Saying that it's probably the best since Inside Out, and then before then, the best since Toy Story 3, so that's 2010.
From the same director, actually. Lee Unkrich was the director. He's also done the story for Toy Story 4, which is coming out, is it 2019? Couple of years time.
It may be moved up,
Next
I'm not
year,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this film was good. It really was. So first of all, let's get that apology out of the way. Let's move on to the IMDb description for the film. So, aspiring musician Miguel, confronted with his family's ancestral ban on music, enters a land of the dead to find his great-great-grandfather, a legendary singer. The film is all about family.
Yes.
It's a family film, all about family. And Chris, you abandoned your family, didn't you?
I was just about to bring that up. In a beautiful stroke of dramatic irony, I watched this movie completely alone because I didn't want to watch it with my family. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a great film. What I will say one brilliant thing, though, because I was trying to get my parents to watch this film with me. And I said to my mom, I was like, yeah, let's sit down and watch Coco. You know, it's the new Pixar film. Let's watch. Well, actually, no, I didn't open with that it was a new Pixar film. I said, let's watch Coco. She was like, oh, no, that's not my kind of thing. When my mum doesn't want to watch a film, she'll make excuses. She'll do things around the house. She essentially won't sit and watch the movie. And I said, why don't you want to watch it? It's, you know, it's getting all this praise. It's like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's loving it. She says, oh, I don't really feel like watching a movie about Coco Chanel. I'm not really into fashion. And I was like, Mum, wow. That amused me. I wanted to bring that up on the review. But yeah, no, like just going from my reactions that I did to the Coco trailers, which actually kind of blew up, especially around the time this movie came out. A lot of people that commented have been very, very nice. They sent me articles and stuff about Dia de Muertos, which is obviously the Mexican holiday of Day of the Dead. Yeah, they've all been like sort of saying like, I can't wait to see your guys' review on Coco and things like that. So here it is, everyone. Hope you enjoy it. You and George, as you just kind of said, were really kind of harsh on these trailers that came out.
I think there was one specific trailer, which was the one about Dante the dog. Which
I wouldn't
really
even count that as a trailer, really. It was kind of a weird film clip, wasn't it? Like a little short film. It wasn't even in the movie, was it?
It wasn't even in the movie. It was like a short film before the movie. But I really came down pretty harsh on that. I didn't like the animation style. I didn't like the character that they were developing. I just thought that the dog was going to be way too big a part of the film. And one thing that Pixar always falls down on, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it really wrong, is the sidekick in the story. The biggest thing.
I'm thinking of Cars right now.
The biggest offender of that is Mata from the Cars franchise. but sidekicks can either be done right, like Dory in Finding Nemo, or they can be done wrong, like Dory in Finding Dory. Um, so, really, Disney Pixar are hit and miss with sidekicks, and in this film, I want to say that the dog wasn't even the sidekick in the story. Really a background character, so I'm really happy about that. Let's go through a bit of the like points from the film. So, character-wise, we have the main character named Miguel, who is played by 12-year-old Anthony Gonzalez, and wow, what a great performance that this 12-year-old has done voice acting wise. The singing, all the lines, everything done really, really well. Completely stole me on the character immediately. Good job to him. Do you have any comments on the person who played Miguel?
No, it was usually when there's a film with like a kid as a protagonist, I'm like, oh god, this could be either really intolerable and obnoxious, or it could work, and it absolutely worked. I mean, I don't know much about the actor themselves, and that kind of goes through for most of the actors in this film. Actually, I'm not aware of them from previous.
There is only one that I recognize.
Yeah, and we'll get into his character later on. Probably spoiler section. Actually, I should say that this is going to be spoiler free for the first half. We'll get to spoilers later. We'll let you know when we get to it. But I can only imagine that they brought some of the real life actors' personality and persona into it. It felt, you're watching an animated film, but it almost felt like a real character. Like, he gets a very compelling story. He's got this dream he really wants to go for, and everyone around him saying, no, don't go for it. He wants to be a musician. And I connected with that, and I really liked his character, and I thought he was a very strong protagonist in this film.
Yeah,
and even stronger is the guy he sort of teams up with, and then it, for the most part, becomes like a buddy road movie almost.
It is a bit like a buddy cop movie. So we have the character of Hector.
Yeah. My favorite character in this film.
Without spoiling anything, Hector is a character who is somewhat rejected and thrown aside, and he only tags along with Miguel just so that he can stay alive in the land of the dead. He's a character who you kind of get along with almost immediately. Really, really well portrayed by Gael Garcia Bernal, who has done previous films which I've never seen. There's no point.
Going to go for a lot of the actors in this film, in all honesty.
No point in even mentioning what he's also been in. But he just did. He's a lovable character. You really feel like you get to know him, and he has such a big part to play in the story. Not even like plot wise, just by being there and kind of giving Miguel the support that's needed. We then have the character of Ernesto de la Cruz, who is like this Hollywood kind of star celebrity, but like Mexico. So he does all the films, he does the singing, he does everything.
He's like the equivalent of the Mexican Elvis Presley, really, isn't he?
He is the equivalent of the Mexican Elvis Presley.
Yeah,
and he's quite a charismatic character. We don't actually get to see much of him, but when he's on screen, he seems to kind of steal every single scene that he's in. He's kind of like that legend that kind of floats around the entire story from the very, very start. Like all the townspeople look up to him and everything like that. And he's just a really interesting character once he starts to develop. And yeah, once again, probably one of the main crux points of the plot, because the whole purpose of the story is Miguel is trying to find him.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, the interactions that take place once he has been found. Then we have some more side characters. The only real other character I need to mention is Mama Coco of the title name. Mama Coco is barely in the film, but even though she's such an insignificant character, she is by far the most significant character in the film.
Yeah.
Like, she's in the story for maybe less than 5 minutes, and a character who has barely any lines of dialogue at all, as this, I would say, like, old lady who is dying.
Yeah, and she has dementia essentially.
Yeah,
doesn't she?
And it becomes massive as far as the plot is concerned.
Well, that's the character who the film's named after, right? Like,
it is the character
she is the central character.
And yet we barely get to see her. But to be honest, every single character we interact with in both the Land of the Living and Land of the Dead is important in some way to the story. Yeah. It isn't like you have a bunch of characters who you see once, then you never see again. Every character has their moment. which I really like, and every character has their reasons
Absolutely.
for the way they act.
I'd like to talk a bit about. Sorry, if you. Sorry, you got.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I'd like to talk a bit about the animation now and the actual world that this film creates. One of my favorite things that Pixar does is that they show you a world beyond what we know. So, like for example, Monsters Inc. It's what the world behind the closet, and you've got this whole like warehouse and company and world of the monsters. You could kind of say that with Incredibles or
Inside Out, World Behind the Mind and stuff like that.
Exactly.
This is the world beyond the living.
Yes.
And I do have some issues with the animation.
Okay.
The overall cinematography, beautiful, stunning. Land of the Dead looks absolutely amazing. Every single kind of area of it looks great. It reminded me a lot of what it would look like if Hugo was animated. The Martin Scorsese film Hugo. If that was animated, this is kind of what I expect it to look a bit like. I will say though, not only is the animation style in some of the scenes very similar to Book of Life, the previous Dia de Muertes film, but it isn't Pixar's best. It doesn't show off. It doesn't show off what Pixar can do. I'm willing to say that the animation, in fact, may have even dropped off slightly from Inside Out, because Inside Out was phenomenally animated, and every film since then has not been quite there. We've had Finding Dory and Cars, and both of them just seem like lazy projects with lazy animation. This is better, but it's still not up to the Pixar height that we know they can get to. One thing that I will say about The Good Dinosaur was that it was
about to bring that up.
Not a good film. Beautifully animated. Absolutely.
The environments in that film are the most incredible environments that I've seen Pixar do so far.
And yet at the same time, this is still not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So we're still looking for Pixar to get back to full form, shall we say? But this is a good step in the right direction.
For me, with Good Dinosaur, the animation was up here and the story was down here. This is one where the story definitely is the most elevated, more so than the animation. That's not to say that the animation in this film is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I love the animation stuff. I love the style of it. I love the character design and everything like that. But I watched the film and I kind of felt like I wanted to see more from this Land of the Dead. Like I thought that they could have perhaps got slightly more creative with it. There's moments where we see flashes of that, where, for example, when the dead are coming to the land of the living for Dia de Muertos, they're going through like a passport check-in. I love stuff like that. They like really kind of modernized it and made the world its own. And I wish I could have seen more quirks like that. All we really see is just kind of a built-up city.
I will say the two things that stood out as far as animation is concerned was the built-up city and leaves.
Yeah. Oh my God, the leaves. I'll get onto the leaves a little bit later because.
Oh, and maybe the spirit animals, because there is one which is a jaguar which looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah. But in terms of like the color and everything like that, even if you just look at the poster, you know exactly what kind of film you're going to get with this. This is one of the most bright and colorful Pixar films they've ever made. The moment you see it in the trailer, the reveal shot of the Land of the Dead, I got goosebumps. I got Disney chills, as I call them. It's a real thing with me. I got it from the trailer and I got it from the movie. I just wish we could have seen more of that. I like seeing that kind of underlying world. And if we're going with other comparisons to other films, you've seen Book of Life. I haven't seen that. The one that I kept thinking of, and even similarities with character design, was Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. Again, we get kind of Land of the Dead. You get the skeleton. I guess it's very difficult to make a cartoon skeleton look, you can't differentiate it all too much because of what you're working with. So there were elements like that. Love the spirit animals, everything, the music as well. Oh my God. One of the best things about this film is how it brought this holiday and this culture to life. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't know anything about this holiday aside from the aesthetic. I didn't know about like the spirit guides and everything like that. I didn't know about why they put leaves everywhere. I do now from this movie, and it's made me very fascinated about this holiday. And I actually think it's quite a nice and sweet holiday that I wish other places celebrated, because it seems like a really kind of nice holiday, putting pictures up everywhere of all your past family and everything like that. So I thought it was effective and quite bold for Pixar as well, to bring this very sort of unique and niche holiday and, you know, make it into a feature film for the entire world.
It's been becoming a lot more popular recently with films like Skyfall using it in its opening sequence, and just films in general, just kind of making it more popularized and making it a little bit more aware. But yeah, no, the film was beautiful, but it could have been better. I think. I really think it could have been better. We're having to compare this as far as the Oscar run is. It's a straight race between Coco and Loving Vincent.
Absolutely.
Coco is given the massive advantage of being a Disney Pixar film. It gives you a nomination, even if it's terrible. Finding Dory last year. And in fact, Cars 3 wasn't even nominated. I don't think it'll be nominated this year.
I really hope not. Yeah, I really hope so.
It'd be awful. But it's up against Loving Vincent, which is one of the most stunning visual spectacles of all time.
I think why we're kind of feel slightly jaded now towards the animation category at the Academy Awards is that, and this isn't a slight against this genre of animated film at all, because they can be incredible, but it seems like it's the constant overabundance.
Here's the problem, Chris. The problem is Oscar voters, a lot of them do not usually watch animated films. They only watch them because it's the Oscars.
Yeah.
And what they don't know anything about how to judge on an animated film. So what do they look for? Oh, it's Disney, it's Pixar.
Yeah.
I recognize those, therefore I will vote for it.
Yeah.
And it's become a problem over recent years, especially with I feel like How to Train Your Dragon got completely robbed. I'm not sure what it was up against, but How to Train Your Dragon was the best DreamWorks film in years.
That was 2010, wasn't it? Robbed. I think it was up. Was it 2010, the first one?
2000. It would have been up for the 2011 Oscars, so it wouldn't have been up against Toy Story 3. I don't think.
Yeah, Toy Story 3 came out 2010. It would have been up against Toy Story 3. Tough year.
So maybe it was How to Train Your Dragon 2 then, which got completely robbed, because it was. I remember it being not the best year for things being up against. I think Frozen won it in the end, but that's only because it was popular. People now look back at Frozen. People look back at Frozen and go, okay, the film isn't as good as I remember it being.
No.
Which is real interesting. It just had one popular song which carried its momentum, really. But with this film and Loving Vincent, I think people will be scared off by the rotoscope, the weird animation style, the good storytelling that is behind Loving Vincent.
Purely because it's different. You know,
it's different.
It feels, obviously it was filmed in live action first, but it feels like you're watching a live action movie, which of course you are, but with the animation over it.
Coco is comfortable, therefore Coco will get the votes.
Yeah.
It's not detracting away from the fact that Coco is a good film, but there is a better, a better film this year. And I'm sorry, but Coco should lose, and it won't. I think Coco last year was difficult. We've talked about this. Last year, Kubo and the Two Strings, which was the clear winner, was up against two powerhouses in Disney with both Moana and Zootopia.
But again, Kubo was different. It had a slightly different animation style that people aren't used to.
And it should have won. And I have a feeling that no matter how good the films are next year, if The Incredibles 2 is the worst film ever made, it will still beat Early Man.
Yeah.
From Aardman, and that is devastating. Before we move on, just want to say the last time a non-Disney film won the Best Animated Picture Oscar was 2006.
Wow.
2006, and that was Happy Feet by Max Miller.
Yeah. I think for what it is for me, it feels like it's the oversaturation of computer animated films now. It used to be 2D hand-drawn animation, times have sadly moved on, and now we just get solely computer animated films. It used to be the case in like the 90s, for example, where Disney would release 2D traditional hand-drawn animated films and Pixar would be that computer animated studio.
Now everyone's doing it.
Then DreamWorks got involved with it with like Shrek, for example, and then they blew up with there. And now it's just the norm. So you have DreamWorks, you have Disney, you have Pixar.
Sony Animation. Yes.
So everything kind of looks the same now to a certain degree. And I think that's why it's very difficult for me to get blown away by computer animation now, purely because I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
There are some beautiful moments in this film, as we've said. We talked about the animation. Before we get to overall opinions, I did want to talk about the music.
Yes.
George actually was very lucky. He went to the Royal Albert Hall last year. Towards the end of last year, it was this big birthday event for Michael. I try to think of how to pronounce his surname now, because how I've always pronounced it, I'm wrong. Giacchino, Michael Giacchino, that's it. And they did a little teaser suite for Coco at the very end. Hearing the music in this film, it's absolutely beautiful. Once again, Michael Giacchino is proving that he is probably one of the greatest sort of like modern composers, definitely of this age. His style is so fluid, so different. Like he can do different sounds for any movie, and the music has a real energy to it. It has a life to it. And I mean, I love Mexican music anyway. And I mean, if you love Mexican music or anything like that, you're going to absolutely love this movie. Not just the instrumental music, but also the actual songs in the film as well. One of my personal favorites from this film is a song called Un Poco Loco. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm probably butchering it. And it's a lot of fun, and it's energetic, and it's everything you want. And music is a central part of this culture and of this film. So I would like how they brought that to it as well. If we're going to get into overall opinions now, I'm not going to say I was let down by this movie, because I do genuinely really love this movie, and I don't want anyone watching this to think that I didn't like this movie. I think it might be a tad bit overhyped, slightly, but I still really like this movie. I love the emotional message of it. I love how it focuses on family, and it absolutely nails that. And there's a moment in this film, or actually a collection of moments, which I'm not going to spoil right now, that are definitely going to be in Pixar's top list of tearjerker moments. It's going to be right up there with the opening 10 minutes of Up. I have a problem with this film, and it's a trope that I'm seeing a lot in Disney, and that's with regards to the villain character of the film, which I'm going to elaborate more on in spoilers. I had a problem with that. Other than that, it's an absolute solid film. It's an animated film for all ages. This is the classic Pixar. This is the Pixar I wish we could get every single time, which they used to be, of course, but now they've had some missteps with Cars 2, Cars 3, Finding Dory, Monsters University. Unfortunately, there's more than a handful of movies by Pixar now that I can actually say that I don't like. This is fine form for Pixar, and I really hope that they can make more films like this in the future. I would highly recommend this movie.
I would also highly recommend this movie. This movie did make me cry.
Yeah, me too.
It was a really heartfelt, emotional story. I really enjoyed it. And the ending is very satisfying. It is, I want to say, ever so slightly bittersweet.
Yeah.
And I always love bittersweet endings. So, yeah, no, this is a real film to watch. You should definitely go and see it. It will be up for Oscars, and it'll probably win for Best Animated. So you should definitely go and see it.
Definitely. So that'll do it for our spoiler-free review on Coco. If you haven't seen Coco yet, although it's been out for many months internationally, go and watch Coco first. Come back to our review, because this is a film where I think it's best if you go in as cold as possible, because there are many twists throughout. There's a lot of surprises, and you really don't want any of that spoiled. So that is your final warning. We are now heading into spoilers. Tate, should we talk about the villain first of this film?
I would like to talk about the villain,
Ernesto de la Cruz.
I don't have any major problems with him. I kind of didn't really see him as the villain. I didn't see it coming, but I did kick myself when it happened. I think you said exactly the same before we did the review. I think that it's very well worked on how he is the hero. And you should never meet your heroes, because maybe your hero murdered their best friend, who is also your great-grandfather. So, yeah. Finding out that he was the villain was very interesting, and it's kind of interesting with the ending as well. Because the way I see it was, he is hated in the land of the dead, but he will still be loved in the land of the living,
no,
Miguel,
he won't actually, because at the end they falsify the museum and call him like a false idol, don't they? So they do set that up where eventually he would be forgotten.
But there will still I still think there might be some people who still
Yeah.
like. It would have been really, really weird if the film ended with Miguel going back up into the attic and still watching the music and listening to the old music.
Mm.
That would have been very, very weird. But
Yeah.
anyway, no, I think that as a villain, he serves his purpose. He isn't in the film much, but he does have quite a menacing presence. The one thing that I will say is the villain reveal thing is the laziest villain reveal thing of all time.
Yes.
We've heard it all the time. It's the oops, the microphone's actually on villain reveal.
Yeah.
It would have been way better if he was either shown doing the action, or it may have even been cooler if he kind of just got crushed by the bell, or just even though he is still like famous in the land of the dead, maybe the story can come back to the land of the living and he can slowly phase out that way. But either way, I feel like they butchered his butchering.
Yeah. Very
and
very eloquently put.
He can't actually die, so I wonder what happens to him in the land of the dead now.
Well, he'll just like go to like a slums, I guess, won't he? He'll just be forgotten until everyone doesn't appreciate his music now. Right, I'm going to start off with positives for the villain first. I thought the persona of the character, his personality, and the voice actor of Benjamin Bratt for the character of Ernesto de la Cruz was great. I really liked him. It's a classic case of don't meet your idols. And the film is very clever at the beginning of how it frames that reveal, because the whole point of it is that people can't come back to the land of the living if they don't have a photo. If there's no likeness in the land of the living, the dead can't transgress over to the land of the living. And Miguel has in his possession an old photo of his great-great-grandfather. I believe it's great-great-grandfather. And his face is torn off because the family have kind of disowned him for his life of music and how he ditched the family. So right there, you have this lack of identity. You don't know who it is. So I thought they framed that reveal very well. It was very tightly written. My problem with it comes with the fact that partially that he's the villain, but I can also see what they were doing with that, and I liked that. And he's probably actually one of the most despicable Disney or Pixar villains we've ever had, in terms of the lengths he went to get his fame.
Not only is it straight up murder, but it's murder and fraud.
And yeah, plagiarism. Yeah, he is
murder, fraud, and plagiarism.
Is the most horrendous human being possible, pretty much. The thing that I didn't like about it, I'll talk about the reveal first. As you said, it's a reveal we've seen number of times, not just in films in general, but also in Disney and Pixar films. It's James P. Waternoose from Monsters, Inc. I would kidnap 100. What is it? I'd kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die. And then Mike Wazowski keeps playing it on loop, and everyone hears it, and he's publicly disgraced and he's arrested. It's kind of the same thing on here, where they coax that confession out of him for everyone to see. Even last year in Zootopia, the villain is the little sheep, right? They're like in politics, and then she kind of confesses. They record it on the pen, the carrot pen, and play it back to everyone. So it's just a trope at this point. And even in terms of the villains, this is something that Disney are doing quite a lot now. And I guess I can group Disney into this.
It's easy. It's a commentary on how everything can be recorded and stuff like that.
Not just that. It's the false villain. Yeah. It's very rare now in a Disney film, where you'll get an outright classic Disney villain. There's a video on the internet by Nostalgia Chick, who did a video essay video on this. In the old school days of Disney, you'd have villains like Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, Maleficent, like your big bad guys that are just bad from the beginning and revel in it, and they're incredible and they're memorable. Now you have the false villain. Now you'll have someone who's framed as a hero, and they'll only become a villain halfway through or towards the end of the movie, so you don't get as much of a connection with them. You look at Frozen with the prince in it, who's all set to marry, and then it turns out he's a villain at the end. Zootopia does exactly the same thing. Even kind of Moana, how you have Te-Fiti, or Takar, the lava monster, and then it turns out that it was actually Te-Fiti, and it was because the heart was taken out. It's very rare you get a solid Disney villain now. And it's a trope that they're kind of repeating, and I'm kind of over with now. And it's a shame that Coco kind of went down that route as well. Although they worked it into the story. So I'm very much divided on it.
How would I have him reveal himself? I feel like, okay, off the top of my head, them having the booklet proving that he plagiarized all the work, and then trying to get people to listen, and even him like turning himself in would have been interesting
Maybe
to
like
see him,
go on, sorry.
like seeing him turn himself in, or even better, just seeing him disappear off, just like seeing him realizing his world's crumbling down,
Hmm.
so he just disappears off into the night and goes missing in the land of the dead.
Maybe a bit cheesy. Maybe they could have done some kind of like improv. Like this is finally Miguel's chance to come up with his own song. Something that's
Yeah,
personal to him, some kind of connection. He plays it to the crowd. They absolutely love it. And then because Ernesto de la Cruz has no originality, has no creative spark to him, he can't come up with anything. And he's
yeah.
shown for the fraud that he really is. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how you could have written it, but I just think it was a tad lazy towards the end and it kind of delved
I
into
could.
the typical tropes.
Chris, Scott Pilgrim versus the World base battle.
Yes. Or Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny have like a rock off with the devil, you
Yes,
know, just do,
definitely.
or School of Rock or something like that. Any Jack Black movie, essentially.
But yeah, that would have worked. Anything else spoiler wise you want to talk about? I want to talk about
Um,
Mama Coco.
yes, we
I
need to
want to
talk
talk
about
about
Hector and Mama
I
Coco.
Hector being the great grandfather, great twist like that. Mama Coco not remembering him at the end until the very last moment, that had me close to tears. I was crying earlier on in the film, but that moment where Miguel is sat down at her feet and he's just trying to get her to remember, and she is so far gone that it looks like it's all going to end.
Yeah.
It would have been. I know the whole thing of like you can only remember them, you only know them if they're living anyway.
I really liked that concept actually, and I guess
I,
we can
I, I
talk
like
about
that concept, but it would have been. I feel like it would have been a better ending if Mama Coco had completely forgotten, but the memory still lived through Miguel.
yeah, I will say I was with this movie every step of the way. Did you think they were going to go with a really sad, depressing ending? How I thought it was going to go was
I thought it was. I thought the final shot would be Mama Coco being reunited with Hector.
me too. I thought that I would have quite liked that route actually, which I know they eventually get to when you see. I believe, yeah, because he comes and does he show up? I'm trying to remember now. Does he show up in front of Mama Coco, Hector?
He doesn't know.
I thought it was going to go where they were going to get back. He was going to put the picture up, and Hector was going to come through, and he was going to spend the last remaining moments with his daughter. She was going to die there and then, so he'd get
Yeah.
to come to the land of the living for like a matter of minutes just to see his daughter, just to sing her a song. She'd die, and because Miguel technically wouldn't count because you have to know them in
Yeah.
life,
Hector
Hector
would
would fade
pass to
away.
us.
And I
Wow.
was, if that had been the ending,
Wow.
that would have.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Oh man.
I
Would have
thought that
been
was where it was going to
incredible.
go. I thought that was where it's going to go, and I kind of wish they had. I would have been in the most depressive state
That
since Toy
would,
Story 3, I think.
oh my lord, that would be the most devastating, bittersweet film ending of all time.
Right? How good would that
Because
be?
even though Hector faded, Miguel would still remember him, and he'd have to live with that.
Yeah,
Oh my lord,
but
Chris, you monster!
you could argue that Miguel has now become his great great grandfather. He's stepping into the footsteps of him, and he's reliving his life as himself now. So it would have been like a weird kind of. He would have still had life after death in the land of the living, but
Yeah.
through Miguel's life. I thought that would have been a very bold way to go and very depressing, and probably every kid would have been crying. Every adult would have been in just
So
catatonic state.
the scene where I cried, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it was the same one, but it was just before the Hector reveal, where he is in the pit
Yes.
and he is being abandoned, he is alone, and Hector shows up and they kind of talk it out, and showing how Hector kind of had a fall from grace and everything like that, and how he abandoned his family. He wanted to go home to see them, and he never made it. That was the tear jerking moment
Yeah.
for me. What was it for you?
That definitely got me. I really liked the performances there. It was cliche choice. It was honestly that bit where Miguel is singing to Mama Coco. I thought that was really
Yeah.
sweet. That's going to be up there with like When Somebody Loved Me from Toy Story 2. That's going to be up there with the opening 10 minutes.
Remember me.
The opening of Finding Nemo. It's definitely going to be in like the top 5 moments. Unfortunately, it kind of segues, unsurprisingly almost, to a happy, everyone's reunited, the living, the dead, and they're all partying and everyone's happy. And I guess I should have guessed that it would have gone that route, but it is interesting food for thought if they had taken a different approach. And it makes me wonder if that was actually one of their original ideas and maybe they pulled it last minute. I really don't know. Is there anything else we can talk about in spoilers? I think we've pretty much said everything we can.
I think we've pretty much said everything we can as well.
I will say though, sort of like summing up final thoughts, kind of echoing what you said at the beginning. Even though I loved the look of the trailers and was really looking forward to this film, I still couldn't shake off the image that it might be a bit close to Corpse Bride, or it might be a bit close to Kubo and the Two Strings.
Book of Life, Kubo and the Two Strings, yeah.
Especially, and this is, I mentioned earlier that I was going to talk more about the leaves, and that was going to be it in that shot in the trailer where he strums the guitar and the leaves all swirl around and sort of like animate themselves. Yeah. Really reminded me of Kubo, where he hits the lute and all the origami leaves and flowers come up. But I can honestly say the film was nothing like that, despite having very similar themes in terms of spirituality and family and remembering them and being reunited with them. I really like this movie. It's a solid entry from Pixar. I don't think I quite like it as much as Inside Out and some of the ones that have come before, but it definitely has that emotional core to it. It's not quite pushing boundaries in a way that perhaps Loving Vincent is at this year's Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature, but it's still a very enjoyable film, and I think there's a lot of subtext there that adults can gravitate towards. Kids are going to love the colors and the quirky characters and the music and everything like that. It's just a really sweet, enjoyable film, and I think that everyone should see it.
Okay. I have nothing else to say. I enjoyed the film, but I still think Loving Vincent should win Best Animated Feature.
I agree. But we'll have to wait and see. So I believe that the Oscars take place in March, so we've still got a good few months to go. We're trying to watch as many movies as we can until then, so we can get a broad scope. As soon as the nominees come out, we'll have our predictions video out. And I think this is going to take it, but we'll have to wait and see. So that'll do it for our review on Coco. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this movie. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Also, if any of you know any of the actors that are in this film that might be famous in like Mexican films or anything like that, please do get commented. Anything regarding this film, its actors, anything you like, please do drop us a comment. As I said, because we're getting closer towards Academy Awards season, we are going to have many more videos coming your way over the next coming weeks. I believe tomorrow me and George will be going live for a review on 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. There's a bunch of films coming out in February as well, like The Shape of Water, I, Tonya, and Lady Bird. So if you're a movie fan, please hit that subscribe button, share, spread the word. We've got a lot of good stuff coming your way. That'll do it for us today, and until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.